DDM 2023.03 sees a couple of enhancements to the workflow XML configuration options. The first one is the ability to automatically add team members from an attribute on the folder template. I'm going to use supply chain folders as my example. So here I've got some supply chain folders here, and I've created one for Amazon, Tesla and Jolan Fabrications. I'm going to choose the Tesla example here, and I've added a new attribute here. Now this attribute is an SQL query on the database to give me a list of all users that begin with the name supplier. Okay, so if I say select this attribute here, I can go and choose the person that I want to be a team member of the folder. So again, this is an SQL query on the DDM database to give me this list in a pop-up select dialog. So I've chosen Tesla as the supplier. Now I'm going to clear that, because the first thing I want to show you is I've also added a condition on the workflow that says that you cannot move from this step to this step unless this attribute has been completed. So we're putting in to make sure the right things happen all the time. If I then say I want this to be my supplier, when I then move forward in the workflow, based on the fact that, let me just reselect that, we've pre-populated this attribute now, I'm now allowed to move forward in the workflow. There you go. So I'm going to control this, let's say, as a member of the purchasing department. I'm going to choose myself as the owner of the folder. And as I now move forward, what's happened is it's automatically added supplier.tesla as a team member of this folder. If I go to the web client now to see that as an example, and I say show my folders, the supplier can now see in this folder because they are a team member. Let's look at the XML code behind the scenes to see. So if I type in here XML, I've got a couple of documents here, auto add team members. So this piece of XML code shows us there's a pre-send to action to say that you must complete this attribute first, and then as long as that attribute has been populated, then this new action, which is add team members, allows us to automatically add a team member and also set their subscription options as a team member against the folder. If you're not familiar with the XML configuration within DDM, we do offer coaching services by the hour, so please contact your DDM support or sales representative. Okay, so our next new XML option is to automatically add a reference document. Now, we've always had the ability to add a new template by copying a document under a new number and automatically attaching it to a folder. This enhancement is that you want to reference an existing document into your folder. A good example of this, if I clear the screen, if I want to create a new change order, so I'm going to say right click, new folder, change order. I'm just going to say make a change, make a change, and then we say why, because it needs changing. Okay, obviously you would type intelligent things in here. So we're creating a change order, and when I say OK, this has been configured to automatically attach this to a workflow, and we've set the XML rule against the first step in the workflow. If I look at the contents, we've got in this divider we've automatically referenced an existing document in the database into this change order so that the people controlling the change order as it goes through has got immediate access. In this case, I've just put some work instructions on how to action a change order. Clearly, it can be any kind of reference document. So let's look at the XML behind the scenes. Again, I'm just going to search for XML, and here we have add reference document. Okay, so again, we would do an attribute check. This is the attribute check to say if the change order folder status is active, then I want you to carry out this action. And this action is to add a reference document. It's a type document. This is the document number and its latest issue at status released, and I want it to be put into this divider. Okay, again, if you're not familiar with XML, please contact your sales representative or your DDM reseller, because we do offer coaching by the hour online typically. So, just to recap, 2 new enhancements to DDM 2023.03, and they are XML configuration options to automatically add team members to a folder and to automatically add reference documents into folders. The next workflow enhancement in DDM 2023.03 is the ability to output XML data from a workflow when you arrive at a step in the workflow. I'm going to use the example of a change order, the one that we just created earlier. This example is if we need to feed back information to our ERP system on the status of the change order. We've always had the ability to send XML information about parts, assemblies, drawings and documents, but now we have the ability to send information about a folder or a folder action during a process. If I look at my workflow process here, I've set a configuration option on this step, change request approval. If we go to the server now and we have a look at the configuration of this workflow, here is my change order. I'm going to go into edit mode, and at the change request approval step of the workflow, we have a new option here to send folder to the Enterprise Update Manager on arrival. Okay, so you only need to switch this on. Okay, if I OK this, I have a folder pre-configured on my DDM server in this location. So we can see here there's a dummy file and there's a couple of folders in here. So let's go back to DDM. When I now send forward in the workflow to this step, I'm going to keep hold of it as a member of engineering. I'm going to keep control of the folder. And we've now stepped forward to the change request approval step in the workflow. And therefore, if we look on the server machine again, what we now have, well, we will have, it takes anywhere up to or a minimum of 1 minute, dependent on your settings in the administration tool. But what will appear is a new XML file. Here it is for change order 32051. If we open this XML file, the information that we provide is what triggered the XML output. This is all of the attributes against the folder itself. So we can see here, needs changing, make a change, etc. And what we also include are the content information in terms of the items and in terms of any child folders. So in this case, we've only got one document in our folder, and it's this particular document and all the information. So a really good enhancement to the workflow capabilities. You know, if you've triggered a change order from an ERP system, as the change order goes through in the PLM environment, you might want to feed back information to ERP to give an update on the status or other information related to that change order. The next enhancement to folders and workflow in DDM 2023.03 is that we've added some additional attributes to the user accounts within the DDM administration client. If I pick on myself as the example, I'm going to open the details for this user. And if we look here now, what we have is a job title, the ability to put the company that you come from, the department that you are a member of, and a contact number. Now, it's very useful if you have large numbers of users in your DDM database. Now, if we look at our workflow example that we were looking at earlier, when I now move my change order forward, I'm going to select the department. So I'm going to send this to engineering. And then when I choose a member, we now see the additional attributes in here. Previously, you would only see first name, last name, and email. Very useful to know what job title is, company, and department. Again, especially if you're part of a large organization or you're new to an organization. So I think this is a really useful enhancement to DDM 2023.03.